Everybody in Jiu-Jitsu knows that the back is the #1 finishing position throughout the entire sport. But if you're like me when you first started, you started to assume that trying to squeeze your opponent as hard as humanly possible with your legs and your arms is the way to control the back. And that's fundamentally incorrect. The only thing it gets you is very sore hamstrings and very sore forearms. In this video, we're going to change your mind and show you how to effectively control people, leading to far more submissions and much better control. These are the same lessons I've used to finish multiple high-level people in competition all across the world, and it's the same ones that my students use to dominate their training partners in their competitions. If you want to become one of those people, there's going to be a link down below that you can click to find out more. But if you don't, enjoy the free video anyway. What we're going to think about when we're on somebody's back, preferentially we want to have a seatbelt. If we've got double unders, I'm presenting Mr. Pappas here no strangle threat, and so if he wants to throw his shoulders down to the mat when we go down to the mat, he's easily able to do so without any risk for him. You'll see this strategy used sometimes in EBI. Kyle Baim is one of the best guys at EBI, and he basically goes double unders, realizes he's not going to strangle you, and just squeezes the death out of you for 2 minutes. I don't recommend you do that, even in an EBI format. You always want one under and one over. When we fall down to our side, it doesn't matter whether we're on the underside or the overside. What mainly matters here is that we have at least one hand over the shoulder here, and we're covering that hand with our secondary hand. If I do it incorrectly and I leave my strangle hand available, Dick can start to grab onto that hand, and now when I go to use it, it's going to be extremely difficult, and I've got to deal with that first. If I have my secondary hand over my primary hand, the one that he has available to him is now the wrong one. So when he goes to grab onto my hand that's on top, which most people will, I can easily start to throw my hand towards his top shoulder, and now he's in defensive mode straight away. He's not going to be able to reach me with his primary here. He's probably going to have to reach up. Yeah, he's probably going to have to reach up with the secondary. This one. Yeah, exactly. And then start to pull my hand all the way down. But he's fighting a losing battle here because I've already won the race to his shoulder. And if I tuck my hand underneath my chin here, now when he goes to go searching, hopefully he doesn't poke you in the eyes, but it's going to be extremely difficult to reach this hand. So just think about those couple of things while you're falling down to your original side. We'll look at the overhook side and the underhook side. When we're thinking about the lower body, hooks are okay. If you want to blow your hamstrings out, they're okay. The amount of muscle you have to use to back heel here to keep their hips in the same position is quite large, so it's very inefficient. You can be fluid and follow them, but it's probably the least controlling option. The second best option, especially if you have shorter legs and your partner has a large waist, is what we call post rear mount. Post rear mount is just this. It's basically the formation of a body triangle without being able to lock the triangle, and you're going to push your foot into your bottom foot to start to control his hips here. So if he tries to turn his hips in, it's a little bit more difficult than this. If Dick wants to turn his hips in here, yeah, it's quite easy. My legs get turned to the side. The best is obviously the body triangle, because now I have a physical lock around Dick's waist. So if he does try and move here, it's considerably more difficult. It's still not impossible, but at least I can free myself up to thinking about attacking the upper body. I don't have to worry about the lower body. When I first started, I thought that squeezing somebody as hard as you possibly could on the back was the best way to contain them. And the only thing I got from that was exhausted with no strangle finishes. Now it's much more of a process of how do I lock up their hips, and then how do I go through attacking their upper body. So go through each of those positions, see which one suits you best, what you have available to you based on your limb length. I would always recommend trying to go for a body triangle. If you find that you're getting to this position and you're just unable to lock this for whatever reason, hand assisting with your hand coming down to your shin, not to your foot. Don't bend your foot up like this. You can actually hurt your foot when you do it like this. But hand assisting coming down towards the shin and pulling it up as high as you possibly can, then locking over, actually gives you a better control up higher over sort of where their diaphragm is, and it makes the triangle easier to lock. Sometimes when you're down here, I remember rolling with Curtis all the time, he's got stupid bony hips. You'd lock a lazy body triangle and they just turn their hip into your triangle. It starts to hurt the back of your leg and then you let go. That's not very useful. So take a secondary hand down here, hand assist, bring it up, and then lock over the top, and then go back to covering your strangle hand. So we're gonna go through all of those options. We'll go through hooks, we'll go through post rear mount, we'll go through body triangle, and then make sure that you're covering your secondary hand. If you're the partner that is here and they don't cover their primary hand, or rather I should say, make sure that you grab onto it, and when they try and go and strangle you, they won't be able to. If they grab on the secondary hand, easily start to feed up and win that race for the shoulder. Then we'll look at some attacks from there. This time we're gonna make an effort
to fall down to the underhook side. And the reason being is that we're going to start trapping this top arm here. So when I'm on the underhook side, I always want to maintain my head underneath their head, because if I don't do that, the likelihood that they start to get their shoulders to the mat and I have to struggle to bring them back is quite high. So what I'm going to do is always keep my head glued underneath here, and then we're going to go through a system of taking my secondary hand down and away, because he's going to be holding it. He's going to be holding one of your hands. If you listen to the first advice and not have this exposed, it's going to be the secondary. So I'm going to come down here and start to punch a strangle. Dick's always going to meet that with his hand, and then we can start to perform multiple exchanges for passing off. So he's going to take that primary hand. Yeah, exactly right. I'm going to start to win the battle for this hand, and I'm going to continue to threaten strangles. I'm not going to be able to just get through this hand, obviously, but I'm going to continue to do so he's distracted at the upper body regarding this area rather than down here. Now, when I want to start to trap an arm, I want the weak part of my grip, which is always where my thumb and forefinger fail to meet. So if the weak part of my grip was facing the ceiling, this is good for Dick. He can start to take his hand away, exactly. But if the weak part of my grip is pressed into his stomach, when he tries to take his hand that direction, he runs into his own torso. Now, I don't want to try and trap the arm when his hand's up here nice and high up near his chest, because even if you're super flexible, you're going to find this really difficult. What I need to do is start to put it down below the line of his sternum and where his ribs are. And so that way I can start to undo my legs, bring my knee up as high as I can, and then easily start to feed into the crook of his elbow where his forearm is here. Now, I don't have to make this additional step, but it is often a good time to do so by taking his hand up and over my shoelaces and then starting to flex my foot in this direction. Now when he tries to take his arm out and away, his arm's going to be trapped the entire time. If I don't make that adjustment, sometimes what can happen is that you're lazy with, you're lazy with your heel placement, and for whatever reason, he can start to pull his hand up underneath. And this can happen. But if you make that extra adjustment, when he tries to do that exact same move, he can't. I'm always going to take my secondary leg here and lace over the top. Most of you guys won't be able to perform a body triangle with the arm trap, but it's not necessary to do so anyway. Now that we've got the arm trapped, we can start thinking about strangles. So I'm going to take my hand down so I can clear his right hand off of my strangle hand. So he's going to follow me here. I'm going to make this pass off here, and I'm going to take it over the knuckle line. I don't want to go down towards the wrist, because again, the weak part of my grip is where his arm is actually strong at this stage, and he'll usually strip this. The way that I fix that is by going over his knuckles like this. I go 4 fingers over the far side and my hand goes in the middle. Then I start to rotate. Oh. Did everyone hear that? His wrist cracked like a cement grinder. Now when I start to externally rotate his hand, it's very difficult for him to just go through his pinky. It's surprisingly difficult to start to take this hand away. The reason I want this hand occupied is now when I go searching with this hand for a strangle, he's not able to use his left or his right. What will happen is he starts to use his chin in defense. Sometimes they'll just tuck it straight towards their chest. Most of the time they'll take it towards a shoulder, and they'll start to shrug their shoulder and make it difficult for you to get under the neck here. What we're going to start to do is use our thumb on the inside of where his jaw meets his neck at this stage. And then we're going to slowly just wedge our thumb underneath there. It's a smaller surface we can start to get underneath. And then we're going to start to pick the chin up as we feed our hand further and further through. Once I've got my wrist bone underneath his neck, I'm in a very good position to start to strangle him. I'm going to use my head to start to turn his head in and make this gap a little bit bigger as I start to put my hand behind his shoulder. Now, even when I let go of his hand on the right-hand side, it'll be unable to be grabbed onto my hand because my chin will be tucked over. Now, if he tries to grab my hand, it's going to be extremely difficult. What I can start to do now is start to widen my elbow, prop up, throw my secondary hand in behind. I'm going to go shoulder to shoulder. Most people go down at the bicep and start to squeeze, but you actually want to go shoulder to shoulder all the way across here. And then it's a rowing. It's not a squeezing of your bicep, it's a rowing of my elbow down into his chest, and you get an extremely tight finish. So all the way from the beginning, underhook side down, body triangle most of the time if you can. Make sure that you're always covering your strangle hand, and then you can start to go through this series. So we're going to go up and threaten the strangle here. I'm going to try and win this hand fight battle. If I have to make this adjustment by coming down here and then switching off, I will do so, and I'll come straight back towards here. I want him occupied up at the shoulder level, so he's thinking about getting strangled rather than anything else. Same thing. My weak part of my grip is always pushing into his chest, and I'm taking his hand below the line of his chest. Sometimes if you do this incorrectly, you'll find it very difficult to start to put your heel in between his elbow. So what I want you thinking about is pulling your knee up towards your top shoulder and then starting to search for the inside of his wrist here. I'm gonna make that secondary adjustment, flex my toes, so it's hard for him to remove his wrist. If he does take his wrist off of my foot, that's okay, because I'm just gonna get a better trap anyway. Usually if the hand's in between there somewhere, it's kind of finicky, but if he takes his hand down that side, you're in a good spot. Now, I'm gonna start to take away his primary defensive hand by starting to come down, searching for the knuckle line, getting 4 fingers over the other side, and 1 thumb on the inside, and rotating this in. Now, when he tries to take that hand away, it's extremely difficult based on the control of the hand that I have. He's gonna tuck his chin towards his chest or towards his shoulder. I'm gonna use my thumb to find the line of his jaw here, and then start to just incrementally get underneath here as I can start to finger walk across and lift his chin up at the same time. Once I've got my wrist bone underneath his neck, I'm in a really good spot to start to go the final part of the way, and I can start to tuck my hand in nice and deep under here and put my chin over his hand. Once he goes searching for that hand, it's gonna be extremely difficult. I'll start to extract this hand, elbow pop, feed all the way to the other side, going shoulder to shoulder, and I'm gonna row down into his chest to get the finish. Let's give that a go. All right, when we get into this position, one of the common things that can happen, we start to threaten the arm, we start to trap the arm, they realize that things are going really bad really quickly. So what they'll try to do is they'll try and jack their shoulder up on the left-hand side, up underneath your arm, up underneath your quad here, like where your hamstring is. Yeah, and they'll start to sink low like this. And for trapping, this isn't really good because I don't really have a chest to back connection anymore. Sorry, for strangling, this isn't really good because I'm too far up his body now. And if I try and perform strangles, even with all the hands out of the way, I'm just not in a good position to do so. My arm is too far down my own body. So what we're gonna do is make a switch off to either arm bars or triangles. And now, because my foot is in this position, I would like to keep this arm trapped. And how I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna start to switch off to the other side of the head here and take a figure 4 grip where I start to upgrade on this side. And then as I start to sit up, I'm gonna make an effort to plant my left foot on the floor. Now, Dick can connect his hands here, but he can't get that secondary arm free. I don't really mind if he gets the secondary arm free, because if he does, he starts to pummel underneath there. I'm just in a normal arm bar as soon as I clear his head, so I'm not in the worst position. But while we've got him here, we may as well keep that arm completely trapped because we're gonna switch off to the rear triangle. The way that I do that is I fall on my left hip at this stage. Just spin around for me. Thank you, sir. We fall, if you ever forget which way to fall, towards the head is the way to do it. And then this leg is gonna become the triangling leg. So I keep this figure 4 grip, so he can't turn away from me. He can't use this arm, I've got that trapped. I'm just gonna fall down to my side by taking his hand up behind the back of his head. And then I'm gonna use my right foot on this near side. Wow, you missed a huge spot there, huh?
Yeah, it's for yours.
Oh, this is great. A little Easter egg for the YouTube channel, huh? What about this side?
No, that's done.
Oh, just the one side. Wow.
The clippers died.
Oh,
So,
that's a convenient excuse. Okay, anyway, back to jiu-jitsu. So we're gonna use our right leg at this stage to start to pivot our entire body all the way around the corner here. Now, I want my knee on the floor. If my knee starts to come around here, I'm too far behind him at this stage, and I'm just gonna not get a good strangle here. I want both sides of his arteries closed, and if I'm too far around the back, I'm just gonna be putting pressure into his windpipe, basically. It'll hurt them, it won't strangle them. So I keep my left knee inverted down towards the floor, and I start to push off using my right foot. Now what I'm gonna start to do is lay completely down on my side. I'm gonna keep this arm pinned towards my chest, and if I need to, I can hand assist right across the front here. I'll leave this up for Dick because it'll put him out if I don't. So I'm gonna hand assist and bring this up as high as possible. Then when I lock, I don't wanna be lazy and leave my leg over this side because I'm not gonna get a good enough strangle. What I wanna do is tuck my right shoelaces all the way underneath his back here as I lie completely flat. And then I'm gonna squeeze my knees together and adduct my knees together for a really strong strangle finish. Don't try and get your foot lazily captured in between the legs here as well. This is the death of this triangle. It's actually really good defense by him because I'm not gonna be able to tuck my shoelaces underneath his spine. I can squeeze here, but it's definitely not gonna work. I'd have to switch out to other things at this stage. So when you are bringing that secondary leg over the top, just be precise in how short you're bringing it through. And then once you're in this position, you can start to squeeze your legs together and get a really strong finish. So, from this arm trapping position, we've gone through our sequence. He starts to defend correctly by throwing his shoulders down exactly right. What I want to do from here, spin around, Other way.
Oh.
You want to show your back to the camera?
Yeah. Okay.
What I want to do from here is start to come up in this position where I've got my foot on the inside. This leg will be on the other side. And then I'm going to take this figure 4 grip so I can bring his elbow all the way up behind his head here. This is going to make sure that his near side shoulder is actually compressing on the inside of his neck here. And then my leg on the other side is going to be doing the job of this side artery. So I keep this together. I start to use my left foot in this instance to start to pivot off and get right the way around behind him, noticing that my knee is still completely flat along the floor. You don't have to hand assist. You could keep the grip if you'd like, but it definitely will help, especially if you're a beginner starting to learn that motion. Once I'm here, I lay completely flat, and all I need to do is adduct my knees and get a really strong finish. Let's give that a go.